Hi guys, welcome to another video. So yeah, here's a Civic. We drove it last weekend and for the first time, and everything held up well. Engine sounds good, it drives fine. We had a bit of a oil leak, but if you guys watched the other videos, you guys would know that I did not put any sealant on the tappet cover or sump gasket. That's just because, in case something needs to be adjusted, maybe valve lash or something, I can take it off without having to deal with the sealant and scraping it off and cleaning it off and reapplying it. So I temporarily just put everything on without sealant, and of course, that did cause a few leaks, as can be expected. A bit more than I actually expected, but it's not a surprise to me. So I put this under the engine just to catch the oil, and you guys can see there's quite a bit of oil on here, and it is coming from the side of the engine. Now my guess is that it is got to do with the valve cover gasket. So what I'm going to do is just take it off, see if I can see where it leaks, and then seal it up with sealant, because I do feel a bit more confident now that the car is going to run and I'm not going to have to take it apart again for anything, because everything sounds good. So all I can really find is right here on this corner. You can see there's oil on the seal here. Obviously if you look down there, you won't be able to see it, but there's a bit of oil down there next to the dipstick tube right there. There's oil over there, so it's telling me that there's definitely a leak in this area here. I don't see oil leaks on any of the other areas. At the back there's nothing, VTEC solenoid, nothing. There's a tiny bit on this seal here, tiny, but I can't really find anything else. I checked under the distributor here, nothing there. So, well, that's technically good. I think the rest of the leaks is actually coming from the sump gasket. I know the sump gaskets do like to leak. Well, here's a sump. You can see there's like a little drop of oil here. You can also see it running down the side here in two spots. Coming out the middle, which could be, that's where the plastic cover will let anything out that's leaking. So I'm hoping it's not the main seal, because I don't want to deal with that. But most of the time it is the sump gasket. Now there is also a small leak. It looks like it's coming from the back, so I'm going to check if it is coming from the, looks like it's coming from where the sandwich plate is. I'm going to remove the valve cover just so we can seal it up around the edges. Then I'm going to pull the exhaust off so we can do the heat wrap on it. And then while the exhaust is off, we can take the sump off, just to seal that up as well, and just to check if there's any leaks coming from other places. So I'm going to put the car on jack stands. I cleaned up this oil catch tray very nicely, just so we have, so I can basically assess the condition of the oil, because we did drive the car for about 15 minutes just to test it and run it in a bit, because everything is rebuilt, new bearings, new pistons, new rings, it was rebored, so all that stuff's new. So I just like to just have a look at the oil, make sure everything looks okay. You don't want excessive flakes, metal flakes in there. However, if there's a tiny bit, that could be okay, because the sleeves are obviously basically brand new. And then while we have everything off, we can do the downpipe in heat wrap, and I did order a turbo blanket for this, so we can hide this ugly rusty turbo. And yeah, obviously the next things is this power steering pump. It's not cleaned up yet. The distributor housing also not cleaned up yet, and the throttle body. Okay, so the oil leak is definitely coming from this area. I'm going to see if I can actually show you guys. But if you see, you'll see there's oil on the plastic part in the middle of the screen there. On the plastic you'll see there's oil there, and the oil shouldn't make it past the seal line. Same here, this whole, I don't think the camera's going to pick it up, but this whole area is basically covered in oil. Now, anyone remember that noise we had way in the beginning? There was like a grinding noise that I couldn't figure out what it was. Turns out this cam pulley actually doesn't really fit with this cover. You can see the adjustment bolt was actually rubbing on the back side of it. So other than that, I think I'm going to clean all this up and then just seal everything properly with some gasket maker. Cleaned up the surfaces here, all these surfaces where the seal contacts is all nice and clean now. I also washed the gasket in hot water and just dish soap, so there's no oil on this, and then I cleaned this channel out very nicely using like brake and parts cleaner. Also used some of it on the actual head itself with like a small cloth. So I have a new tube of gasket maker, so what I'm going to do is just run a thin bead in here and then also run a bead all the way around and then put the seal into the valve cover and put it on there, so then it will be sealed both sides. Yeah, here's the oil. I mean, the oil looks fine actually. It looks a bit green on camera. It's not so much green in real life. But, you know, if I tilt it so you can see the bottom, doesn't really want to focus, but there isn't any shavings in here. Now I am going to take the sump off now, just so we can see if there's anything in the sump itself, and also I need to seal up the sump because we know it's leaking a bit of oil. Okay, we have the sump off now, and let's inspect it. I was actually quite alarmed because I looked in there and then I saw that silver stuff right there, and I thought, oh shit. But luckily that was that's actually damage to the sump, because there's a dent at the bottom that I was trying to beat out. So luckily that over there is not shavings. However, I do see, don't know if you guys can see that, but there appears to be some sort of like a black flake. Let's see if I can get one of them. Okay, so I don't know, it disintegrates, so I'm not sure what it is. It doesn't feel very, it's definitely not shaving. Actually, I think this, you guys saw the block. If you guys watched the block assembly video, you'll know that the engine was actually quite dirty. And, I did clean it as best as I can, but I don't think I got everything. I mean, there's some places, like let's say inside the sump at the bottom of this baffle, you can never really clean there. So I do think like this black stuff might be from either the block, possibly the head, or even the sump, because that feels like carbon or dirt. It doesn't feel like a shaving. Let's just have a look at this oil quick. Anyone notice there is actually a tiny bit of shavings there? Just the tiniest bit right down there. Now the thing is, you won't be able to see the small ones, but there's a tiny bit of small ones, which is possibly normal because it's a new engine, running itself in. But the bigger ones might be concerning. However, like I said, this engine was very dirty, and I don't think I got all the, I got everything clean when I cleaned it, because I cleaned it like 3 or 4 times, and every time there was more stuff coming out of it. So, possibly that is just what was trapped in the engine. Yeah, I would say I'm happy with this. It looks okay. Nothing obviously wrong. I'll have a really nice look just at all the bearings, see if I can see anything squeezing past. Okay, here's the finished product. I think it looks very nice. It's not very difficult to do. Hides all the rusty exhaust parts, all the ugly welds. I mean, these are ugly weld, even an ugly weld if you can't see it. I do think this looks very nice. I was able to actually wind the whole thing tighter and then loosen this clamp a bit and wind the whole thing and then tighten the clamp again. This side I wasn't able to do that as easily, but I was able to wind it up a bit. Clamp on this side actually looks much nicer because this is basically the only part you'll see. This looks 100 times better, and I think actually it will be functional as well because this part actually goes pretty close to the sump. So, you know, hot exhaust very close to the sump, oil drains onto the hot sump basically, so this could actually like heat up the oil as well. So I think this just covering the area under the sump. This area is right by the radiator. Up here, mostly just for aesthetics because it's very ugly. But I mean, yeah, I think it's well worth it. I'm not sure how much this stuff cost. I used about, I would say, almost half, maybe just over half. To me, this is mostly for aesthetic purposes because this was a very ugly exhaust. And we have the heat blanket already ordered. It's probably going to take a while before it shows up. But I mean, yeah, that's one of the last things in the engine bay is this ugly turbo, rusty turbo. But I mean, if we now have the heat-trapped downpipe here and we have this in a turbo blanket, that gets rid of all the rusty parts. I did paint this with heat-resistant paint, and so far it's been holding up very, very well. Okay, car is still on jack stands. I have the sump all sealed up now. We have the heat-trapped exhaust all back on again. Tappet cover is sealed, so we shouldn't have any more oil leaks. I did also change the oil filter and we're going to put fresh oil in it now. What I'm going to do now, just start the car. I have this piece of cardboard under the car, that's under the sump, and then I'm going to run it for a bit, just a few minutes, see if it leaks, and then leave it overnight to see if there's any leaks tomorrow. Ran the car for about 6 or 7 minutes. I wanted to run it for a bit longer, but it is 10 o'clock at night and this car is obnoxiously loud. The heat wrap didn't catch fire, so that's good. And so far it's been standing for 10 minutes after it ran and there's don't see any visible signs of oil leaks. And I'm going to leave this here overnight and I'll check it tomorrow, see if there's any leaks. Okay, it's the next day now and it looks like we are good. There's no new oil leaks. I checked the sump also and I don't see any new oil leaks. So looks like it worked. We are taking the car for a quick test drive, just making sure everything is fine. Oil pressure looks good. Happy to report there's no strange noises. I'm going to be driving the car for about 1,000 kilometers and after that we'll be taking it back to the dyno to turn it up. We are looking for about 220 wheel horsepower. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. See you on the next one.